Tonight on Reel to Reel, San Diego, California is the scene as we visit a high-rise for the homeless.
And we'll delve into the past with a look at the sacred relics of St. Anthony's Chapel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
We'll see how the ancient Byzantine art form of iconography is done.
And Mike Gallagher will take a trip down the yellow brick road. All that and much more tonight. Hello, I'm Father Dave McGowan.
And I'm Isabel Gavry. Welcome to Reel to Reel.
Every year, the Memorial Day weekend ushers in the beginning of summer fun for Americans. But in future years, Memorial Day 1986 will be remembered for much more.
To be more specific, May 25th, 1986 will be remembered as the day Americans joined hands in a human chain across the country in an effort to fight hunger and homelessness in the United States.
The effort successfully raised millions of dollars. But now comes the hard part, taking that money and distributing it where it will do the most good.
Which brings us to our first story tonight about a high-rise home for the homeless. Nicknamed the Hilton of Shelters, the St. Vincent de Paul Center in San Diego, California, currently houses 200 homeless people and provides its inhabitants with food, shelter, education, and a variety of social programs.
But as you'll see, it's not a free ride. Remaining a guest at the St. Vincent de Paul Center means taking on responsibilities.
Here's a question for you. What does this auction, this classroom, this construction site, and this priest all have in common? The answer is the homeless. When most people think of the homeless, they tend to picture the mentally ill, the winos, and the bag ladies, aimless street people out of sync with the mainstream. But the profiles of the homeless are drastically changing.
Well, I'm Wyatt Scott. I come from Jersey. I want to try to make a living out here. And this is my family. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, I'm Annetta. This is my daughter Erin, my son Wyatt, and my other daughter Wendy.
Wyatt, Annetta, and their 3 young children are part of the new homeless. Temporarily, they are living at the St. Vincent de Paul Center in San Diego. They represent people propelled from their homes by forces more economic than emotional. Young, educated, and often caught in a catch-22. Their numbers are growing daily.
In the case of a family, the plight ends up with first they lose the job, then unemployment benefits run out, and they don't want to get welfare. And then they realize when they finally reach, they're 6 months behind their payments for the house, they're behind in every payment, and the bank is no longer willing to wait, or the landlord is no longer willing to wait. Then they go apply for welfare and find out you got to wait.
Father Joe Carroll is the president of the St. Vincent de Paul Center.
Once you don't have an address, you're not eligible for welfare. See? And therefore, once you're on the street, it's tough to get back in. Most shelters keep you 3 to 7 days, but it takes 2 weeks at the same address to get welfare or disability or even get your first paycheck. So they end up in a vicious cycle. Like, we let them stay longer, 2, 3 weeks, till they get that first check. But even then, you got a problem. You get your first check. Where can you go when you can't afford to pay first, last deposit, buy furniture? You end up going to downtown hotels where they'll take weekly rent. You make one mistake, you fall behind again, you're back out on the street. This is a model of the new St. Vincent de Paul Center.
In hopes of curing this revolving door of poverty and helplessness, Father Carroll has designed a program that gives the homeless more than just an overnight handout and a pat on the back. He has conceived a $6.8 million facility to house 350 homeless a night. But this is no human warehouse, mind you. It's been dubbed the Hilton of Shelters.
Along this side of the building is where the counseling, the job training, the food bank is, where they can get food assistance, where they can be interviewed, people can help them put their lives back together again. On the far side, the 16th Street side, is the medical clinic and the school. We're going to have a medical clinic that is a shower facility, so those who do live on the streets, because there's not enough room in shelters, can take a shower, get a change of clothes. There's a barbershop, beauty parlor, counseling, job training, food bank, underground garage, so those who have cars can park them. Volunteers can park safely, and staff can park safely. And it has a big courtyard, so when they want to go outside, they don't have to go out on the street and be unsafe. And it's beautiful, as I always say, because I have to work there, and I like nice things.
Pie in the sky dreams, you say? Think again. Construction is already underway, and some of the programs Father Carroll proudly preaches about have been in practice for the last 3 years in this rented hotel, which houses 200. Father Carroll provides the shelter, and San Diego social service agencies take care of the job training, education, and counseling, the only collaborative program of its kind in the nation.
Someone that would come in on a voucher program would go first to an agency like Catholic Community Services or Lutheran Social Services or Jewish Family Services, Salvation Army. We work with 67 agencies countywide.
Sister Christine Giordano is the program coordinator for the center. She arranges the social programs for the homeless and monitors their progress.
The target population we work with are people that are able and motivated to change their situation and are stable enough to live in a large group situation. They would do some goal setting. The social worker then would call us to see if we have space. If we did, then we would go ahead and make a reservation. Within 7 days, they have to go back to the social worker and be accountable for what they've agreed to accomplish. If they've done what they've agreed to do or at least made some progress, then the social worker would renew their voucher for the second week. If they haven't, then ordinarily they would terminate at the end of that first week, and we would make room for somebody else to come in.
It's a good place to get a start, you know, to try to find work. Here you really don't have no responsibility except taking care of your family and, you know, just basically trying to find work.
People don't treat you as just someone who just walked off the street. They treat you as part of the family. And the family can all be together.
During the 2 to 3 weeks that residents stay at St. Vincent's, they can take advantage of a wide variety of social services, but none is more important to Father Carroll than his little one-room schoolhouse where grades K through 9 are taught.
Presently, we have a shelter that houses 200 people a night. Out of that, 70 every night will be children. 35 of those approximately will be school age, and we found out on the average they miss school about a year or more. So we approached the San Diego School District, the public schools here locally, and asked them to form a public school.
And it works real well. It's usually kids are pretty much into what they're doing, and they like it. They say one of their goals is that the children would feel better about themselves when they left than they did when they come in, and they seem to do real well in accomplishing that.
San Diego has a homeless population of 3,000. This compares to some cities which have 40, 50, even 100,000 in their midst. The tendency is to ask why all this extravagance for such a small number of people.
We feel our role is, as the Lord said, you know, just feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless. He didn't say on certain conditions. He just said do it. So I always tell people, therefore, we're going to feed them. Doesn't mean they deserve it. I don't know if everybody in line deserves to have the meal. I do know they're hungry or they wouldn't be waiting there.
Listening to Father Carroll, you wonder how he battled the odds to achieve such a monumental task. You also question how a person with no social work background heads a major homeless project.
Well, I came involved the way the typical Democratic church does it. The bishop called me in one day and said, tomorrow you're the new head of St. Vincent de Paul Center. We need to do something about the homeless, and we bought a city block. The diocese had bought a city block, and he said, go out and build something.
Father Carroll's primary job is raising money for his new multi-million-dollar facility. In part, he is accomplishing this through St. Vincent's thrift store and daily auctions of items donated by the community.
We hit corporations, foundations. We would say that probably 50% of our money comes from non-Catholics. We attract a large community following. I'm known in town as the hustler. If I meet you, you're going to get asked for money.
Someone once said, you can judge a society by how it treats its less advantaged. Father Carroll feels we use the Band-Aid approach when it comes to the homeless. Give them a handout and a place to sleep, but sweep their problems under the rug. This, he says, is a reflex reaction. It will not solve the homeless problem. It will only create a new generation of aimless street people.
We have a stereotype of who the homeless are, and we tend to picture the the derelict on the street, single male. And what our experience has shown us is, yes, some people fit that stereotype, but the majority of people that we see do not fit that stereotype. They're individuals and families who have hopes and dreams for themselves, and they feel that they just need a chance, and they're very nice, ordinary people, not very different from you or I.
That's quite a program. We hope Father Carroll and the St. Vincent de Paul Center will have the opportunity to benefit from the monies raised through Hands Across America and continue to provide their all-too-needed services for the homeless and the hungry.
Let's take a short break, but there's more to come, so stay with us.
At the Donahue Funeral Home, we're always gratified to hear from the families we serve. Over the years, many bereaved families have told us how much they appreciated the warm, home-like atmosphere of the Donahue Funeral Home. To make such moments perhaps a little less difficult, the Donahue Funeral Home suggests that you discuss with us now, in the privacy of your home, pre-arrangement and the financial advantages and peace of mind it brings. That's what living is all about.
The House of Charity can be found at work throughout South Jersey, wherever there is suffering and distress. Through its agencies, compassionate care goes to the elderly. The needy receive food and clothing. Special education programs administer to the mentally handicapped. Expectant mothers receive pre- and postnatal care, and medical services are rendered to the ill. Support the House of Charity in South Jersey. Touch someone's life with love.
We all know what relics are, and that authenticated relics are highly treasured articles. But did you know that it's a sin to actually purchase a relic?
It's called the sin of simony, and for the most part, it has prevented relics from being viewed as objects of monetary value and maintained them as sacred articles.
Which makes our next story all the more interesting. It's about St. Anthony's Chapel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which boasts over 5,000 authentic relics.
Like many chapels over the years, St. Anthony's in Pittsburgh is carefully decorated with beautiful handcrafted artwork from around the world. The ceilings and walls of St. Anthony's are hand-painted with many symbolic figures of the Catholic Church. The stained glass windows, depicting the apostles and several saints, were handcrafted in Munich, Germany. The hand-carved Stations of the Cross are life-sized and were imported from Bavaria. But it is not the artistic splendor which makes St. Anthony's unique. It is the impressive collection of over 5,000 relics. Bone fragments, skulls, even entire skeletons of venerated saints are displayed here, a collection which parishioners claim is the largest single collection of relics in the world. Catholic doctrine states that relics are not worthy of veneration, but can act as useful reminders of holy people who are now in glory with God. These relics were collected by Father Swebert Mollinger, the first pastor of this parish. Son of a wealthy Belgian family, Father Mollinger used his inheritance to build St. Anthony's Chapel, a chapel designed specifically to house his growing collection of relics. Father Mollinger obtained the relics from the churches, monasteries, and convents of 19th century Europe. During upheavals in the late 1800s, many monasteries and convents were being looted. Fearing the loss and destruction of relics which had been passed down through generations, clergy entrusted their treasures to Father Mollinger for safekeeping in America. The parish has Vatican documents which state the authenticity of some of the relics. Most are considered first-class relics, meaning they are part of the actual body of the saint or instruments of their penance or death. Many of the relics in Father Mollinger's collection are housed in beautifully crafted reliquaries. Some contain a single bone fragment. Others contain the relics of many saints. Some of the prominent displays include a case which houses a relic for each saint listed in the former liturgical calendar, a case which includes a relic from each of the founders of major religious communities, and another includes the names and relics of each saint listed in the Old Roman canon of the Mass. Like any good collection of relics, St. Anthony's boasts an intricate reliquary with a fragment of the true cross at the center. Around this centerpiece is a circle with relics of St. John the Baptist, St. Mary Magdalene, St. Lawrence, St. Dionysius, St. Blaise, and St. Stephen. Father Mollinger lived to see his chapel finished and his collection of relics displayed to inspire the faithful. The completed chapel was dedicated on the feast of St. Anthony of Padua, June 13, 1892, and 2 days later, Father Mollinger died, his dream fulfilled. The chapel has been declared an historical landmark in Pittsburgh, and parishioners encourage people to share in their unique historical collection.
We have our own rich religious history here in the Delaware Valley, but at first glance, some of it might be a little confusing.
Here's Father Joseph Glass with another moment in history.
Was it a plot or an error? We still ask this question today concerning the nomination of bishops for Newark and Trenton in July of 1881. 9 months earlier, the Archbishop of New York, Cardinal John McCluskey, met with the bishops of the province of New York. They came together to discuss the selection of a new bishop for the Diocese of Newark, which at the time covered the entire state of New Jersey, as well as the possible division of the diocese. This meeting resulted in the bishops recommending to Rome that the southern counties of New Jersey be constituted as the Diocese of Trenton. They then drew up 2 lists of candidates, with Father Michael O'Farrell heading the list for the Diocese of Newark, and Father Winand Wigger first on the list for the new Diocese of Trenton. On July 7, 1881, the consultors of the congregation voted unanimously to divide the Diocese of Newark and to establish the Diocese of Trenton. They then voted on the candidates for the 2 dioceses and nominated Father O'Farrell for Newark and Father Wigger for Trenton. However, 4 days later, when the cardinals met, they ratified the division of the diocese, but voted to name O'Farrell the Bishop of Trenton and Wigger the Bishop of Newark. What happened? Why the switch? There are 2 possibilities. One is that Cardinal Franz Zellen, a German member of the congregation, deliberately switched Wigger, a German-American, to the larger diocese. The second explanation is that the switch was simply the result of a clerical error. Whatever the reasons, the process continued, and the decrees assigning the 2 bishops were issued and letters of nomination sent to them. I'm Father Joe Glass with this moment in history.
Thank you, Father. We're going to take another short break.
But don't go away, there's more to come.
Stage comes right out into the audience. There's not a bad seat in the house.
The acting is top-notch. The scenery is creative.
The atmosphere is always exciting.
It's really beautifully done. It's directed well.
It's very flexible, it's creative. It's really great.
They're very professional, extremely.
There's a chemistry there that makes it enjoyable to attend the theater.
Villanova's summer theater season begins on June 17th with the production of 1776. Call for more information.
What can I tell you? Every Sunday you can become more aware of the world around you.
You'll discover what's new in the Catholic Church.
There's always something new. And Sister Mary Ann and I would like to share with you the triumph of Catholics in the area. The spirit of Vatican II is alive in you and in me.
Well, look at the Gospels. God's Word has always had the answers for your life's problems.
I'm Father Lee Forbes.
And I'm Sister Mary Ann Johnston.
Every Sunday on the radio, join us. Up on Air.
Belle, you're an authority on movie nostalgia. What movie did this line come from? I'm going to get you, my little pretty.
And your little dog, too.
That's an easy one. It's The Wizard of Oz. Now give me a hard one.
Well, that's just the point. It's easy because over the years, The Wizard of Oz has made an indelible mark on our memories.
Only a small number of movies can earn the title of timeless classic. And here's Mike Gallagher to talk about why The Wizard of Oz is one classic that we should be passing on to our own children.
Hello, I'm Mike Gallagher. All right, so you bought a VCR. It's a great step forward in home entertainment, but what are you going to get for it that you can show to the whole family? This presents a problem, but let's be positive. To be specific, let's us or at any rate, let me now take time to praise one of the best of all possible choices, The Wizard of Oz. It's a movie I think that will always hold its place in the hearts of Americans, and not just American children. I think The Wizard of Oz may well prove to be the outstanding American film achievement of all time. Its two strongest competitors from its own era are Gone with the Wind and Casablanca. As for our own era, such as it is, I think it's infinitely superior to E.T., its principal rival. What makes me such an unreserved advocate of The Wizard of Oz, even in the face of what are probably howls of anguish protest on the other side of the television screen? Well, quick now. How many good performances are there in E.T.? How many memorable faces? The answer is one in both cases, right? Lovable old E.T. himself. How many memorable lines? One, right? E.T., phone home. This, I submit, is not the stuff of which classics are made. Gone with the Wind and Casablanca present, I admit, sterner competition. There you do have great faces and memorable lines. Vivien Leigh, Ingrid Bergman, Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Here's looking at you, kid. This indeed is the right stuff. But I still prefer The Wizard of Oz. It's a movie that's very much a paradox. Like Casablanca and Gone with the Wind, it's a state-of-the-art Hollywood product for its time. Unlike the two romantic movies, it's very much in the tradition of show business, of unabashed, straightforward performance to an audience. And of course, its settings and its stylization make no pretense whatsoever to realism. All this should distance us from The Wizard of Oz, inhibit our getting emotionally involved. But paradoxically, it draws us in. It reaches out and touches us with an artlessness and innocence that affect us deeply, even as its superbly crafted professionalism entertains and amuses us. It's that splendid blend of sophistication and unsophistication that would later characterize the American musical theater in its golden age. One reason for its impact is the sheer talent of everybody involved. Victor Fleming, its director, also did Gone with the Wind, and there's the marvelous songs of E.Y. Harburg, Over the Rainbow first and foremost, of course, but wonderfully complemented by the sprightly We're Off to See the Wizard and all that other music that fits so well into the story. And the performers. To name only the most famous of them, Bert Lahr the Lion was one of the greatest comedians that vaudeville ever produced. Ray Bolger the Scarecrow was one of the most famous dancers ever to appear on Broadway. Frank Morgan the Wizard was one of the most distinguished and lovable of Hollywood character actors. And of course, in Judy Garland, we have a Dorothy that we're never going to forget. A Dorothy is an icon that is so appealing and radiant in its purity that it will forever stay the hand, I think, of even the most zealous of iconoclasts. But don't take my word for it. Try it on your children and see what they have to say. I'm Mike Gallagher for Arts Review.
Throughout its history, the Catholic Church has expressed itself and its beliefs through classic works of art. Most of us are familiar with the frescoes, paintings, and architecture that have characterized the growth of the Church.
But there is another type of religious art connected closely to the Eastern Church that we may not know so well. It's an art form known as iconography.
Let's meet Nicholas Pappas from Blairsville, Pennsylvania, who has made a living as an artist working in the timeless art form of iconography.
The content of an icon is something to do with the life of Christ, the life of Mary, the life of a saint. They go from something very simple to something very complex. Almost all of my work is based on what we call prototypes, icons that are already in existence. There's not a whole lot of room for innovation in certain respects. Like, you don't see people rewriting the gospel because it's all there. And in a sense, this is a visual gospel. In icons, there's an aspect called the happy sadness, because they're really colorful and joyful. And they're like Easter in that way, but they're also in the faces austere. So there's the seriousness that we have in our life, but with Christ you have joy and the hope, at least, of good things to come. So there's kind of a perfect balance of those things that we're always searching for in our life, but it's there in icons. that feel or that spirit that is trying to be created is the feel of a heaven, of something divine. Technically, there's a certain way to paint the eyes, a certain way to paint the nose that follows tradition, and it's done in that way because it evokes the correct response from the person looking at it. Like they see a grace in those eyes, or an introspection, or these are the eyes that have seen the true light. These are holy eyes. This is a nose that smelled the sweetness of heaven. And this is a graceful, a beautiful mouth that has said good things and preached the gospel. They're abstracted a little bit to make them have that grace and that beauty and that kind of look that says there's something more here other than just being like you and me. This person is changed and special. They're in heaven now and they're in God's glory. The type of image an icon is really quiet and sublime, at first anyway. And I really hope that people can see them, spend time with them, because they become really loud after a while in their own way.
If you'd like to get in touch with Mr. Pappas about his artwork, call or write us here at Reel to Reel and we'll put you in touch. Write to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103. That's Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103.
Or call during business hours, 215-668-9842. That's 215-668-9842. And join us next week as we delve into the extraordinary life of Padre Pio, world-renowned stigmatic.
And Father Tom Legere will be along to talk about our multiple selves.
And we'll travel to El Cajon, California to see just what makes a perfect soul. So be sure to join us again next week. Good night.
Good night, and remember, Jesus is Lord.
Travel arrangements for Reel to Reel by Atkinson and Mullen Travel of Media, PA. Phone area 215-565-7070.
Last year at Malvern was a great beginning. This year's Young Adult Conference is going far beyond.
We have the entire 300 rooms set aside for young adults 18 to 35, single or married.
At first, I didn't know what the Young Adult Prayer Group was all about. But since I began, my whole life has changed. I've met the greatest people, and Jesus Christ is alive within me.
Join us at our weekend conference July 4th to Sunday, July 6th. $60 covers everything. Just call 215-668-HOPE.
Many people find retirement isn't as much fun as they thought it would be. Too much time on their hands, too little to do. The Retired Senior Volunteer Program has thousands of opportunities for retired executives, housewives, engineers, teachers, whatever your skills or schedule. RSVP has something to fit anyone's interests. You've learned a lot in your life. Share the experience of a lifetime.